Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is pretty simple. Take these dense reports, white papers, the heavy stuff, and boil it down. Give you the strategic insights you actually need to, well, stay ahead of the curve. Today, we're doing a deep dive into advanced AI interaction. We've got sources from the Promptella white paper, some key industry reports, and really the focus is on getting you from just using AI, maybe casually, to someone who gets, consistently high-quality, actionable results from LLMs, large language models.
Yeah, and it's strategic because the way we interact is changing, right? It's not just asking a question anymore. The sources talk about this symbiotic relationship. It's like our minds and the AI become these interconnected extensions, and realizing that your intent, your input, is maybe even more critical than the model itself. That's the real starting point for mastery.
Symbiotic relationship, interconnected extensions.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty high level. Let's ground that a bit. I was struck by something in the sources, this idea that the very first prompt you use isn't just step one. They call it the conversational anchor.
Oh, absolutely. The conversational anchor. It's foundational. It sets the context, the tone. It basically tells the model how to behave, how to align with what you want for that entire interaction. If you don't nail that anchor right at the start with clarity, the LLM just drifts. It gives you generic stuff, lowest common denominator output.
Right, like walking into a meeting. If you state the objective up front, boom, productive meeting. If you just start with chit-chat, well, you know how that goes.
Exactly. Same principle. And that initial anchoring, that's why engineering the prompt, thinking it through, is so vital. Casual questions just don't give you that level of control or specificity.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics then. If structuring that first prompt is so important, what are the real documented benefits? What do we actually gain?
Well, the reports highlight three main things: quality control, real customization, and enabling more advanced reasoning. Let's start with quality. Prompt design is huge for minimizing those, hallucinations.
Hallucinations. Okay, that term gets thrown around a lot. For someone using this professionally, what does that mean practically?
It means steering the AI away from making stuff up, basically, or giving you confident-sounding, but wrong information, off-topic stuff. Look, the models are complex, but a well-structured prompt. It acts like guardrails. It defines the knowledge boundaries, the relevant zone, and that structure directly boosts factual accuracy, trustworthiness, which, in professional context is everything, non-negotiable.
So build the guardrails first. Then you can start customizing within them.
That's the key insight. Prompt engineering gives you that fine-grained control. You can enforce specifics, like maybe you always need output in markdown, or a bulleted list, you set that rule, or a specific persona. You can make the LLM roleplay, say, act like a financial analyst, but only focused on emerging markets. You're taking this general tool and making it hyper-specific to your needs.
Just using language to go from general to super specialized. That's pretty powerful.
And that leads right into the third point: advanced reasoning. Think about complex tasks, multi-step coding, deep analysis comparing, say, two different market strategies. They need sequential thought. The sources talk about techniques like chain of thought prompting, OTT, and that relies entirely on how you engineer the prompt to guide the LLM step by step through the logic.
So instead of just asking for the final answer, you're making it show its work. Like in school.
Precisely. You're teaching it how to think about the problem, not just what the answer is. And this forces what researchers call emergent reasoning. Suddenly the LLM can tackle problems that a simple one-shot prompt just couldn't handle.
Okay, but all this structure, this engineering, it sounds like more work up front. If I'm focused on efficiency, maybe cost savings, how do you justify spending time crafting this perfect prompt?
That's a fair question. Doesn't writing a detailed 500-word prompt take way longer than a quick 50-word question? Initially, yes, maybe, but the efficiency gains down the line, they're huge. The sources talk about reducing the froth of unpolished prompts.
The froth? What's that?
It's all that back and forth. That's too long, make it shorter. Okay, now change the tone. No, focus only on market risk. Every single one of those refinements. That's another request to the AI, another process spins up on a server somewhere. And crucially, if you're using an API, that's another charge, another API call.
Right. For listeners maybe not deep in the tech weeds, the API call is basically the transaction, the thing you pay for each time your app talks to the AI. So 5 refinements means paying 5 times.
Exactly. So by cutting down that froth, getting it right, or much closer to right the first time, you slash the number of iterations. Fewer API calls means lower operational costs, especially if you're doing this at scale, like in a big company or a development team. You minimize wasted computation. That's real money saved, hard dollar saving.
Okay, that makes a strategic case for the individual user, for the team. But let's zoom out now to the market, because the demand for people who can actually do this, it's just exploded.
Oh, the data is incredibly clear on this. The AI Index 2025 annual report, it shows U.S. job postings mentioning generative AI skills, more than tripled year over year. But the really eye-popping number is specifically for prompt engineering. Job postings citing that skill, up by 350% in just 1 year.
350%. Wow. From what, around 1,300 postings to over 6,000? And that's outpacing even skills like building the large language models themselves. That tells you the market sees effective communication with the AI as the major leverage point right now.
It's clearly the highest demand skill, the bottleneck. But here's the weird part, the paradox. The AI Engineering Report survey found that even with this soaring demand for the skill, the tools needed to manage it, they're seriously lagging behind.
You mean tools to actually manage and organize all these carefully crafted prompts once you've made them?
Precisely. The report found almost a third, 31% of AI engineers have no structured tool for prompt management, none. They're creating this super valuable intellectual property, these tuned inputs, but they've got no solid system to version them, share them, track performance.
So what are they using? I remember seeing some slightly alarming things in the sources about that.
Yeah, it's fragmented and often pretty inadequate. About 35% are relying on custom in-house tools, which, brings its own set of problems with maintenance and scaling. But the craziest part? 15% are still just using spreadsheets, basic spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets, seriously. For what's essentially critical IP, I mean, for our listeners, that IP, those prompts, that's the secret sauce giving a company its edge in AI. Putting that in a shared Google Sheet, that sounds like, well, a disaster waiting to happen with version control alone.
It really highlights the gap. Without proper specialized tools, even expert engineers are burning time just on maintenance, hunting for the latest version, recreating prompts someone else already perfected. It shows the bottleneck isn't just the skill itself, it's the whole infrastructure around the skill.
Which brings us nicely to maybe the biggest aha moment in the sources. The part that challenges the idea that you always need the latest, greatest, most expensive AI model. I'm talking about the MIT study.
Yes. This finding should make anyone using LLMs pause and think. MIT Sloan ran this large experiment, and the results were pretty shocking. When people switched to a much fancier, more advanced AI model, only about half of the performance improvement they saw actually came from the better model itself.
Only half. Okay, I think I see where this is headed.
The other half came directly from how the users adapted their prompts, how they improved their inputs. So your skill, your input structure, your prompt engineering, it's responsible for half the value uplift, completely separate from the expensive model you're paying for.
That completely changes the ROI calculation, doesn't it? Focus on your input skill as much as, or maybe even more than, the model choice. But the study also had a warning, right, about those generic auto-rewriter.
A critical warning, yes. Those tools, the ones that pop up saying, hey, let me improve your prompt automatically. The MIT study found they can actually tank performance by as much as 58%.
Whoa, a 58% drop. Why? What are they doing wrong?
They tend to override the user's specific intent by adding, well, generic fluff, extraneous details, bureaucratic language almost. The user knows their specific, narrow context. They put in a clean signal. The auto-rewriter tries to make it complete in a general sense and just dilutes that core message. So the tool designed to help ends up hurting. It proves that structure needs to enhance your intent, not just replace it with generic best practices.
Okay, so we need structure, but structure that respects and builds on the user's original idea, not overwrites it.
Yeah.
This seems to be where the Promptella white paper comes in with his proposed solution, this 3-layer enhancement engine.
Exactly. It's a structured approach designed to take that raw intent, which might be a bit messy, and systematically turn it into a clear, functional blueprint for the AI. And it works through 3 core layers, applied in sequence. First is context, defining the environment, the goal, the AI's role. Second, examples, giving concrete input-output pairs or specific ways the model should behave. Show, don't just tell. And third, structure. This is where you enforce the output format, technical constraints, measurable targets, the hard requirements.
Let's make that concrete. The sources had a great A/B test example. The original fuzzy idea was just futuristic, eco-friendly treehouse village. Lovely image, but totally useless for an architect or developer.
Right. A standard LLM would probably just write you a nice creative paragraph. Pretty, but not actionable. But watch how the layers transform it. Layer 1, context. immediately adds purpose. We tell it the target audience is eco-conscious architects. The problem is designing a scalable, zero-footprint living structure. We're setting a professional stage.
Okay, so that shifts the whole frame from creative writing to, like, technical brief.
Precisely. Then layer 2, examples. This brings in the technical mandates. Here, the user specifies exactly what's needed, not just eco-friendly wood, but specific cutting-edge stuff, like piezoelectric pathways for energy harvesting, and constraints, too, like it must use mycelium-based materials for rapid building. Specifics matter.
So context sets who the AI should be. Examples dictate what materials and methods are in scope. What does the final layer, structure, add?
Structure nails down the output format and the metrics. So instead of a story, the prompt demands a phased action plan. It needs to list required technical docs and, crucially, quantifiable targets. The example specified an 80% renewable energy target and a clear deployment timeline.
Wow. The difference is just night and day. From treehouse village, vague idea, to a detailed scope, ready for technical work, ready for budgeting.
And this methodical process, it produced statistically significant results across 100 A/B tests they ran. Adding these layers, context examples, structure improved prompt specificity by an average of 166%.
166% more specific. That's a huge improvement just from structuring the input better.
And that specificity directly led to better outputs. Overall AI output quality jumped by 43% on average. More useful, more relevant results. And here's the efficiency kicker. The length of the AI's output actually decreased by 13%. The responses were tighter, more focused, less fluff, just the information needed.
Better quality, less output length, so fewer tokens used. That really drives home the point. Mastering the input isn't just for developers watching API costs. It's for anyone using ChatGPT for real work. You stop wasting time and tokens on that endless refinement loop.
Absolutely. And you can see this applying everywhere. An educator could use this to fine-tune a curriculum for a very specific niche with clear learning outcomes baked in. A developer goes from a high-level app idea to a structured tech stack, an action plan. A marketer, from a fuzzy campaign concept to a detailed brief, much faster.
It seems like it's fundamentally about reducing the mental effort needed to get from a basic idea to a high-quality, usable output.
That's arguably the most important benefit for you, the listener, the learner. The sources explicitly mention reducing cognitive overhead. When a system or a process handles that complex refinement work, that structural heavy lifting, it frees up your mental energy. You're not bogged down worrying about output formatting or hitting specific technical points in the prompt. Your brain power goes to higher level strategy, creativity, the actual core task.
A massive advantage when we're all drowning in information and tasks. Okay, let's do a quick recap of this deep dive then. Key takeaways. That first prompt, it's your conversational anchor. Absolutely critical. Demand for prompt engineering skill. Through the roof, that 350% job surge says it all. And the solution lies in structure. Layering context, examples, and structure into your prompts can give you that massive 166% specificity boost and 43% better output quality.
And remembering that your input refinement accounts for half of the performance gains you see, often more important than just chasing the newest model. So the provocative thought I want to leave you with ties back to that cognitive overhead point. If you can successfully offload the really demanding structural part of crafting the perfect AI instruction, if you can systematize that refinement, how much more of your own intellectual capacity, your thinking power, could you unlock for genuine critical thought, for innovation, for strategy? That might be the real next frontier in AI productivity, not just making the AI smarter, but freeing up the human mind it works with.
A very powerful question to mull over. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive. We'll be back soon with more insights from the Research Edge.